are live. We are live. Welcome to another episode of the James Nolan podcast. And we are going to get right into it right off the bat. The New York Giants, man. Saquon Barkley is gone. He is leaving the Giants after spending 6 seasons with them, being drafted second overall. And not just for any team, but for the team that Giants fans hate the most. No, not the Dallas Cowboys. And you might think the Giants fans hate Dallas Cowboys more than the Philadelphia Eagles, but they don't. And I'll tell you, even from an outside perspective, I hate the Philadelphia Eagles because the Eagles are making championship moves. They not only did they steal a New York player by taking Bryce Huff away, but now they go out there and they give Saquon Barkley a 3-year deal. And this is not a knock on Joe Schoen. This is not a knock on Brian Daboll. This is not a knock on the New York Giants organization. If there is anything that Giants fans should be pissed off about, it's Saquon Barkley. That's who the enemy is in this whole entire situation. Because the fact of the matter is, the Giants did not need to re-sign Saquon Barkley to have future success. That's just simple as that. They did not need Saquon Barkley to have future success, and that's exactly why Joe Schoen didn't sign him. Now, could you say that he should have traded him during the offseason? I mean, not during the offseason, during the regular season? Yeah, you can say that all you want, but at the same time, Brian Daboll was in his second season as the head coach. When you trade away the captain midseason, what happens to that locker room? They lose trust in the guy calling the shots, and that's Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. And the fact of the matter is, you trade your best player in the middle of the season for a second-year head coach in a year that's already not going too well, he's going to lose the locker room. So the Giants made the right decision in every single aspect since they drafted Saquon Barkley. They handed him the franchise tag last year because they wanted to build off the success that they surprisingly had. They surprisingly made the playoffs 2 seasons ago. It wasn't because Joe Schoen had a good offseason or because Brian Daboll put together a winning formula in his first season as head coach. The second season as head coach, injuries derailed the quarterback play. The offensive line sucked. And speaking of the offensive line, the Giants are already going out there and using the money that some fans wanted Barkley to get. They're using it the right way. Xavier McKinney, by the way, he's gone too. He signed a 4-year deal with the Green Bay Packers. So he is gone. So the Giants lost 2 of their best players. But at the same time, Giants fans, you should be happy because you're going out there and you're getting a guy who you just signed, former Green Bay Packer, John Ryan Jr., according to Jordan Renan, and he's played 16 games in 3 straight seasons. And what do you need? What do Giants fans always say? The offensive line sucks. Well, you use that money to go get an offensive lineman, a durable one, a trustworthy one, a veteran that knows how to protect the passer. And that's what he's going to do next season, whether it's Daniel Jones, whoever they draft with the 6th overall pick, or maybe even they trade up, who knows? That's another topic for a later day or even today. But the fact of the matter is, the Giants and Joe Schoen, what's up, Yuki? The Giants and Joe Schoen are off to a great start this offseason. And yes, it sounds insane because they just lost 2 of their best players, arguably the 2 best players on their team. Xavier McKinney was calling the plays on the defensive side. You never see that out of a safety. It just goes to show you how good of a player Xavier McKinney is. But at the same time, the least valuable positions in the NFL today, running back and safety. And they made the right move by not paying their star running back or their star safety. Because if they did, it would further complicate things for the future. So letting them walk away, Joe Schoen, that was the exact right decision to make. It's a tough bullet to bite that Saquon is going right across, same region with the Philadelphia Eagles, and they are Super Bowl or bust now, just like they have been the past 2 seasons, but they're even better now that they have Saquon Barkley with Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. They're loaded, and it sucks. But at the end of the day, the Giants are making right decisions. They already replaced Saquon Barkley. I know Devin Singletary is nowhere near the talent Saquon Barkley is, but guess what? He has a background with Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen with the Bills organization. So you got to give credit to them. They're making smart moves. Let's be real. The Giants weren't going to win a Super Bowl next year. They might have not even. even with Saquon Barkley, were the Giants a playoff team next season with Daniel Jones as your quarterback? Because that's another topic that we're going to get into right now. Saquon Barkley, done. What do the Giants do at quarterback? Because they were just talking to Russell Wilson just last week. What does that show? If you're a Daniel Jones and you hear that the Giants were talking to a former Super Bowl champion quarterback, you got to be thinking to yourself, man, my time as starting quarterback in New York might be dwindling down. And guess what? The Giants have the 6th overall pick, and they're looking to take a quarterback, whether it's at 6 or whether they trade up and get the guy they want. Is it J.J. McCarthy? Is it Jaden Daniels? I don't know, but all I know is that Daniel Jones will not be the starting quarterback by the end of next season. And that's just a fact. That is just a fact. The Giants are rebuilding. I know we all love Brian Daboll. He is a fantastic coach. He's a great coach. You cannot take away anything from Brian Daboll. But the fact of the matter is the Giants do not have a talented enough roster to make the playoffs next year. Me personally, I think they screwed up by giving Daniel Jones all that money a few years ago. But after this season, they can cut him with with barely any cap implications for next year. So the Giants are setting themselves up for future success. It's going to be interesting where they expand off from here. But the Giants, they lost Saquon Barkley. They lost Xavier McKinney. They're going out there. They're improving their offensive line. They're bringing in Devin Singletary to at least pick up a little bit of the slack that you're going to lose from Saquon Barkley, and that's a good thing. Devin Singletary, at the end of the day, he's not Saquon, but he's still a good running back in the NFL. And he does have prior history with Brian Daboll, so he knows the system. And maybe he can help out Jones or whoever that quarterback that they draft at 6 or where they move up and draft the quarterback, whoever they get. The offensive line that they're building, Devin Singletary, they're doing good. They're making good choices. I still want to see them go out there and get a real true number 1 wide receiver. And that's going to lead me into my next topic. Tee Higgins requested a trade. And now, on my previous podcast and in all my articles, I always point out the Giants have 2 very good wide receivers already in Jalen Hyatt and Wan'Dale Robinson. Are they number 1s? No. Hell no. Could one of them develop into be a number 1 and they can make me eat my words? 100% they can. But when I look at them right now, I see Wan'Dale Robinson and I see Jalen Hyatt, and I say those are 2 very good wide receivers with 1,000 plus yards, 1,000 plus season it's in their future. But at the same time, you can't just rely on those 2 young guys. Tee Higgins is a guy who you can rely on to be a number 1 wide receiver, and he would help those 2 guys. Because you can't rely on one of those 2 guys to be your number 1. Jalen Hyatt and Wan'Dale Robinson, they're not number 1s, but Tee Higgins is. And what's it going to take to get him? A.J. Brown, that was a first-round pick. But A.J. Brown is a freaking beast. I don't think it's going to take a first-round pick to get Tee Higgins. I don't. I mean, Calvin Ridley, another guy who a pretty good trade package that he got in return. But I'm pointing out, look at CMC. They didn't get, yes, it was a second round and a whole lot of other picks, 2nd and 3rd and a 5th, I believe. But at the same time, that's CMC, and they didn't give up a first-round pick for him. I don't think you got to give up a first-round pick to get Tee Higgins. And I know CMC is a running back, yes, but at the same time, he's not. He's a running back and a wide receiver. And he's light years ahead of Tee Higgins. I know everybody and their mother would take CMC over Tee Higgins. So I don't think it's going to take a first-round pick to get Tee Higgins. So if I'm Joe Shane, whoever I do draft in the first round, they are taking a quarterback. Whether it's J.J. McCarthy or Jaden Daniels, they are taking a quarterback. And if you bring in Tee Higgins to be that new quarterback's wide receiver 1, or even if it's Daniel Jones who does start the season, if he's their wide receiver 1, maybe you do get what you thought you would get out of Daniel Jones when you handed him that 4-year deal. Because Daniel Jones has never had a true number 1 wide receiver. Because let's be real, his best receiver is gone. It was Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley was 9th in total scrimmage yards over the past 2 seasons with over 2,800 scrimmage yards. Saquon was the Giants' offense. And is Jalen Hyatt and Wan'Dale Robinson going to explode into a number one receiver next year? No. Are you going to get a wide receiver in the first round? No. Tee Higgins. He's the guy. Trade for him. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do the Giants, should they trade for Tee Higgins? Am I out of my mind? I think if you don't got to give up a first-round pick for a guy like Tee Higgins, you 100% strike. The Giants have not had a true number one wide receiver since Odell Beckham Jr. Tee Higgins is right there. Right there. And I do think that Tee Higgins by himself, without Jamar Chase, could be a number one receiver. He could be a dangerous threat. A real dangerous threat. I don't know if Jamar Chase made him better or if he held him back. I don't know. And the only way we will find out is if he gets traded and he becomes the true wide receiver one of that team. And if that team is the Giants, then the Giants, hey, maybe they can do a surprise run again next year, even with a rookie quarterback. Because if that rookie quarterback, if he had Tee Higgins, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Jalen Hyatt, maybe Darren Waller can have a healthy season with the revamped offensive line that they're already making moves for. I mean, you got to like the direction that Joe Schoen is taking this Giants team in. You have to. You have to. It sucks that they lost two of their best guys. It does. Xavier McKinney and Saquon Barkley were the two best players on the Giants for probably the last 3 to 4 years. But now they're gone. They're gone. The Giants are hitting the reset button. And they're not even really having to hit the reset button. I don't even think they need to go into full rebuild mode because their defense is actually pretty good. I mean, yeah, you're losing your... I mean, I kind of take that back. I'd say Xavier McKinney might be the third best. I'd say the second best player on the Giants is Bobby Okereke. He's a beast. He's durable, plays in almost every single, if not every single snap every year. He's a beast. He's top 10 in tackles for the past 2 seasons. Bobby Okereke is a beast on that defensive side. And then you have Dexter Lawrence, who's one of the best defensive linemen in the game. And then if Kayvon Thibodeau, he showed that he could be a superstar. He's not a superstar yet, but he could. There were a few games last year, and even during his rookie season, where you're like, oh my, he could be dangerous. But you need to see it on a consistent level. So the Giants defense, it's right there. And then Deonte Banks too. I can't leave him out. He's going to be a top cornerback in the league one day. He's that good. He's talented. It was a great pickup last year in the draft. So the Giants defense, it's there. But you need to make that offense good. And you do that by getting a wide receiver one and building up the offensive line. Whether it's Daniel Jones or a rookie quarterback back there next year, they need a wide receiver one and they need an offensive line. It's simple as that. But the Giants, got to give Joe Schoen credit. He bit the bullet. A lot of other teams, let's be real, a lot of other teams probably would have matched that offer or gave him more money to bring back a franchise guy. Saquon was the franchise guy. When you go to MetLife Stadium, you just see Saquon Barkley jerseys. That's all you see, Saquon Barkley jerseys. Now they're getting burned. But it's not because of Joe Schoen and it's not because of the Giants. Like I said at the beginning of this show, if Giants fans want to be pissed off at anybody, be pissed off at Saquon Barkley. That's it. That's all you can do. All right, let's change tides. We'll go to the other side of MetLife Stadium. The New York Jets, who have done nothing. They have done nothing. Even Breece Hall tweeted out, I see all these offensive linemen signing. You're just going to let Breece Hall get killed back there? Aaron Rodgers, 41-year-old quarterback, coming off a torn Achilles. And another thing about the Jets offseason, Gardner Minshew, gone. Gone. And if you've listened to any other of my podcasts, almost every single pod, every single week, I always talk about the Jets needing a backup quarterback. And one of my top options was Gardner Minshew. Because let's be real, Gardner Minshew is a great backup quarterback. But he's out of the equation now. Now, there's still other backup quarterbacks out there, but they need a backup quarterback badly. Because Aaron Rodgers is not playing 17 games next year. He's not. It is just not happening. I'd love to say, you know what, Rodgers, he's going to win the MVP. The Jets are going to win the Super Bowl. He's going to have a great year. But in reality, he's 41 years old. In reality, the New York Jets are the New York Jets. Could they win a Super Bowl and could Rodgers win an MVP? Hell yeah, they could. But let's be realistic. He's 41. The Jets are the Jets. He's coming up for torn Achilles. They need a backup quarterback. Can't be Trevor Siemian. It can't be Zach Wilson's done. He's done. He's going to be looking for trade suitors if he even gets a trade suitor. Might be just getting cut. Thank God the Zach Wilson era is over. But the Jets banked on Zach Wilson as their backup quarterback last year, and shit hit the fan. They didn't re-sign Mike White, who was right in front of their faces. He wanted to come back. He would have been the perfect backup option for Aaron Rodgers. He actually was winning a few games with the Jets before they had Rodgers. He was productive. And as much as I want to say that Mike White would be a great starting option, because last year I was a big Mike White guy. I was saying, just make Mike White the starter. Who cares? But at the same time, Mike White's not a starting quarterback. But what is he? He's a really good backup quarterback. And they could have signed him, but they didn't. And they let Gardner Minshew walk away. I'm just baffled, not only at the lack of the backup quarterback. Like, you just don't want to get a backup. What the hell? Even 2 years ago, before they got Rodgers, when they had Zach Wilson, when they originally drafted Zach Wilson, it took them weeks to sign Joe Flacco, get a veteran backup in there. Like, Joe Douglas, we regard him as this great GM because he had one good draft. He had one good draft. He got Sauce Gardner. He got Garrett Wilson. He got Breece Hall. He got Jermaine Johnson. He got all these great guys in that one draft. But outside of that, what has he done? Nothing. The offensive lineman that he signed sucked. Laken Tomlinson sucked. The only lineman that I want to see come back, two linemen, is Joe Tippmann and Elijah Vera Tucker. The rest can kick rocks. Cut them all. The Jets have the worst offensive line in football. Joe Tippmann was a rookie center playing guard. You're asking a rookie to change positions. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? The Jets are an absolute mess. Even with a four-time MVP as their quarterback, even with one of the best cornerbacks, if not the best cornerback in football in Sauce Gardner on the defensive side, even with a top 10 wideout in Garrett Wilson, even with a top 10 to maybe even a top 5 running back in Breece Hall, the Jets are still not the worst talented organization, but they are the worst organization in football. They're the worst organization in football, flat out. You had Aaron Rodgers last year, and yes, he went down, and your plan to win the Super Bowl goes away. But then your goal is to win, 6 or 7 games? Just because you lose one position. And you go out there and you get Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb and McCole Hardman. You make all these moves to surround the QB with talent to help him win. What happens when the QB gets hurt? I mean, other teams around the league, they plan ahead. The Eagles a few seasons ago, they planned ahead. When Carson Wentz went down, they had Nick Foles to back him up. When they went to the Super Bowl, who was their backup quarterback to Jalen Hurts? Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew steps in for Anthony Richardson last year. They win 9 games. They didn't make the playoffs, but they had a winning record. They almost made the playoffs. I mean, Jake Browning with the Cincinnati Bengals, he kept them alive. I mean, hell, even Joshua Dobbs was popping off for a little bit with the Vikings. He was keeping their playoff hopes alive. But when you have a backup quarterback named Zach Wilson or Trevor Siemian or the backup quarterbacks for the Jets have been terrible. Terrible. The one backup quarterback that we had that was good is gone on a division rival. What are the Jets doing? What is the Jets' plan? It's obvious what their plan should be. Get a backup quarterback and get an offensive line. It's pretty simple. But no. So far, it's 5:30. We're hours into free agency. We see teams signing offensive linemen left and right. We see Gardner Minshew already get a deal, and the Jets are silent. Silent. The Giants they're already making moves. Are they making big splash moves? No, but they're making good moves. The Jets, they haven't even made a move, so we can call it a bad move. Because the Jets are prestigious for making bad moves. They haven't even made a bad move yet. And that's a problem. The Jets aren't making moves. I mean, the Eagles, they want to win a Super Bowl. They got the guy that they think that they can win a Super Bowl with, Saquon Barkley. Hell, the Packers, they went to the playoffs after getting rid of Aaron Rodgers with Jordan Love. And what do? They go sign Xavier McKinney. Now, I'm not saying you got to go out there and improve the defense. I would love to improve the defense even more because I think we overrate the defense a little bit. Am I saying they're bad? No. I think this Jets defense is phenomenal, but they're not as good as advertised. So the Jets need to do something ASAP. ASAP. Breece Hall is already pissed. I'm pissed. A lot of Jets fans are pissed. Jets need to wake up and make some moves. Because if they do want to, they want to win a Super Bowl. Because that's the goal for the Jets. The goal for the Giants is just win a few games. The goal for the Jets is a Super Bowl. Even if you lose Aaron Rodgers next year, the goal should be to win a Super Bowl. Why? Because Aaron Rodgers isn't even the best player on this Jets team. He's not even the fifth best player on this Jets team. I could name 5 guys better than Aaron Rodgers right now on the Jets. Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Quentin Williams. Give me another guy. Jermaine Johnson, I would even say, is better than Aaron Rodgers. I think Jermaine Johnson is one of the more underrated players on the Jets. Not by Jets fans, but by the whole entire league. The Jets, without Aaron Rodgers, should be Super Bowl contenders. And how does that happen? You get an offensive line and you get a backup quarterback because the surrounding pieces are there, but you don't have the centerpiece. You're hoping that Rodgers is the centerpiece, but you cannot rely on a 41-year-old quarterback coming off a torn Achilles to be the centerpiece. So you have to have a plan B. And Rodgers also needs an offensive line, and whoever that plan B could potentially be, they're going to need an offensive line. Because if the Jets had an offensive line last season, you could make the case that Zach Wilson maybe could have brought the Jets to the playoffs. But they didn't have either. They didn't have an offensive line, and they didn't have a reliable backup. They failed. Before the season even started, they failed. They cannot do the same thing twice in a row. They cannot fail before this season by failing, whether it's a draft, whether you sign them. There's Joe Alt from Notre Dame. I'd love for the Jets to steal him in the first round. I'd love for them to steal him in the first round because one, Notre Dame linemen, they've always proved to be studs. Look, Quentin Nelson right there with the Colts. One of the best linemen, if not the best lineman in football. Notre Dame linemen are very good. Now, I'm not saying you're going to land Joe Alt. If we get lucky and we get Joe Alt, I'd love that. But even if we do get Joe Alt, we need more. That only gives you 3 reliable linemen. And Elijah Vera Tucker, I'd love to say he's a reliable lineman, but I'd say 1 reliable lineman. Because Joe Tippmann, he hasn't done enough. I love the potential he has, but he hasn't done enough. Just like I love the potential that Elijah Vera Tucker has. But Elijah Vera Tucker can't stay on the field. He can't. So even the 2 linemen that I trust and that most Jets fans do trust, we shouldn't even trust. Hope is not a strategy. It is not. Hoping that Aaron Rodgers is going to have an MVP year is not a strategy. Hoping that the Jets can scratch together just a decent offensive line, put a Band-Aid on the offensive line just while Aaron Rodgers is healed. It is not a strategy. The Jets seem like they don't have a strategy. It seems like their strategy is Aaron Rodgers, save us. And Aaron Rodgers is he's not at that point in his career where he could save you. With the Packers year in and year out, it was like, you know what? The Packers, they're Super Bowl contenders. They're going to make the playoffs. Why? Because they have Aaron Rodgers. That's not the same Aaron Rodgers right now. I'd love to be proved wrong, but right now, coming off a torn Achilles, missing all of last year. I mean, and even 2 years ago, he had a broken thumb. And yes, that's a wild injury. Yes, it's not like it's a torn ligament or a torn muscle. It's not like a conditional injury. No, it's a freak accident. Yes, and he did play through it, so I got to give him credit there. But at the same time, he's 41. He doesn't have the same durability that a 25-year-old quarterback would. He can't take hits like Zach Wilson can take hits. He can't. Because if he does, what happens? He's 41. I'd love to say that, all these quarterbacks nowadays, they can play till they're 45 like Tom Brady, but there's only one Tom Brady. There's only one. Drew Brees, he failed out towards the tail end of his career. Peyton Manning kind of failed out towards the tail end of his career too. We're seeing it with Matthew Stafford right now in LA. The injuries are catching up to him. The age is catching up to him. And Rodgers is 5 years older than Matthew Stafford. So going into next season, as a Jets fan, hope is not my strategy. Hope last year was my strategy. I was hopeful that after Rodgers went down, Zach Wilson could do something magical. But he's Zach Wilson. Hope, like I said, hope is not a strategy. The Jets have no strategy right now. We are hours into free agency. Not a single move has been made. And yes, they already have a great defense, but the two biggest needs right now, offensive line and backup quarterback, and we're seeing all these teams make all these moves. And the Jets are not one of them. If you're Super Bowl or bust, you need to make moves. You need to make moves. All right, that's it on the Jets. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to hop right back into some baseball. Actually, we're going to skip baseball. We'll do baseball after we talk some Knicks. So watch this quick video on why I thought Gardner Minshew should have been the backup and why the Jets need to value their backup quarterback spot again. But the Jets need a backup quarterback in 2024. Gardner Minshew will be available. Gardner Minshew is the guy that they should get. Gardner Minshew actually almost got the Colts into the playoffs. Yes, he had a little debacle at the end of the year, but it's not all on him. One, he's 27 years old, so he can move around a little bit. He's not going to be like a Tim Boyle or a Trevor Siemian, a guy who's going to be just standing there. And also, he had a 62.2 completion percentage, 3,300 yards in 2023, 15 passing touchdowns, and how many interceptions? Let's see. Only 9, 15-9. So if Aaron Rodgers does go down with an injury and it was Gardner Minshew who stepped in, you'd be a lot more confident than a lot of the other backup options. Ideally, it would be Mike White, but that's not happening. He signed a 2 year. All right, quick break. Gardner Minshew's gone, so he's not an option. He's not an option. Jets suck. They suck. They're the messiest organization in football. Talent-wise, they're great on paper. But in reality, the Jets are still the worst organization in football. So we are done talking Jets. Let's talk some freaking Knicks, because I got a very good update when Shams decided to go on whatever show he went on earlier today and imply that OG Anunoby is about a week away from his return, and that is big news for the Knicks. Big news. Why? Because, I mean, if you watch last night's game, you know why they need him. They need help badly. They're limited. The guys are getting burnt out. OG Anunoby would be huge. And yes, Julius Randle, his return would be huge as well. But even just getting OG Anunoby back, his defense, his three-point shooting, the fact that he can guard 1 through 5. OG Anunoby is one of the most underrated players in basketball. It was one of the most underrated trades, I think, in recent years. The OG Anunoby trade was huge. But since he's been hurt, this Knicks team has been different. Have they tread water? Yes, they've treaded water. Great. But they're still in 4th place, which is great. But in reality, this Knicks team, they need help. Because if the playoffs started today, it would be a first-round exit. There would be a first-round exit without OG Anunoby or Julius Randle. With one of them back, it gives you hope. I know hope is not a strategy, and I just said even as a Jets fan, hope is not a strategy. But with the Knicks, you got to hope. That's what we got to do. Sometimes hope is a strategy. All right, so I'm eating my own words right now. We got a comment. Let's see. Celtics over Nuggets. Shut up, Chris. If the Knicks are healthy, you already know that they're beating the Celtics in 7 games. I don't want to hear it. The Knicks are a bad matchup for the Boston Celtics because OG Anunoby will lock up Jason Tatum, and Jason Tatum will have to guard either Julius Randle or OG Anunoby, and they're going to give him hell. I love Tatum, and I love his defense, but he's going to get overworked by guarding them and expecting him to score 30+. So hopefully, when the Knicks are full health, Benny, I love you, but at the same time, nah. Celtics will not beat the Knicks at full strength. Ha, 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 man. All right. But listen, think about it. OG Anunoby, he can guard 1 through 5. He would lock up Jason Tatum. Julius Randle, with Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson, they're the most underrated duo in the NBA. Jalen Brunson is probably the most underrated player in the NBA, even when he's scoring 27 points per game. Tyson, shut your mouth. My dog's barking, my bad. But Jalen Brunson, most underrated player in the game, even when he's scoring 27 a night. The fact that he wasn't an all-star starter was stupid, but then again, that's the all-star game. We already know that the fans are stupid sometimes, and the fans were stupid not to make Jalen Brunson an all-star starter. But even besides Jalen Brunson, you look at this Knicks team, Dante DiVincenzo, he's shooting the hell out of the ball this year. He's probably going to break the three-point record for the Knicks in his first year. Josh Hart, he's a workhorse. He can play defense. He can put the ball in the basket when he needs to. Now, do I want him to be the one of the main options for the Knicks on offense? Hell no. But Josh Hart is still a good player. Bogdan Bogdanović, lights out from 3. Another good player. Miles McBride, he's finally getting minutes with the Knicks, and he's showing you his defense is great. He can score. He can slash. He can pass. Miles McBride is good. This Knicks team is deep. The Celtics are top heavy. They got Kristaps Porzingis, Jason Tatum. They got Jaylen Brown. They got what's his name? Small white guy. Benny. Small white Pritchard, whatever, Peyton Pritchard. So the Celtics, they're top heavy. The Knicks, they're top heavy and bottom heavy. They got a bench. And when they're at full strength, I think they're the second best team in the East, right after the Celtics. I think they're better than the Bucks. The Knicks are that good this year. And when they get their two guys back in OG Anunoby and Julius Randle, then we're really going to start seeing what this Knicks team is actually made of. Because even without them, they've done great. And that just goes to show you how deep this team is. Because without Jalen Brunson is obviously their best player, but after that, 2 of their best players, they're missing. And it's not just Julius Randle's a star. He's a superstar. He's probably the 3rd best or even 2nd best power forward in the game right after Giannis. He is good. In the offseason, they left Julius Randle off the top 10 power forward list, which is just astonishing. I don't understand how you leave Julius Randle, who scores 25 a night as a power forward and gets 10 rebounds a night as a power forward. How is he not top 10? I don't know. But then again, Julius Randle is also underrated. The Knicks at full strength, they will go to the Eastern Conference Finals, but they need to get to full strength. Yeah, that is true. I don't think we're going to be with Randle until like the 2nd or 3rd round of the playoffs. So we got to do some damage in the playoffs. But Jalen Brunson and OG Anunoby, I think that's a good duo right there as your top 2 players. And when you got Dante DiVincenzo, I think Dante DiVincenzo on the offensive side, I think he can be a good number 2 or number 3 option. He's been putting up 20 a night since Anunoby and Randle went down. So Dante DiVincenzo, he's no scrub. So let's not act like the Knicks, even without Randle, they're still pretty good. Really good, actually. And that's thanks to Jalen Brunson. Now, you take Jalen Brunson off this team, if he gets hurt, we're screwed. We're screwed. Yeah, we are not beating the Bucks without Randle. I don't know, man. I think we could. OG Anunoby's very underrated. He's a very good defender. Very good defender. I'm not saying he's going to lock up Giannis, but he's going to give him hell. He's going to make it challenging for him. And then Jalen Brunson, I mean, offensively, he can go toe-to-toe with Damian Lillard. Now, Damian Lillard obviously is a lights-out shooter, top 75 basketball player all time. He's great. But at this point in his career, Jalen Brunson is right there with Dame. He's not the same Dame he once was 5 years ago. He's not MVP Dame anymore. So, listen, the Knicks, it's good news that we're getting OG Anunoby back because that means we get our defender back, our best defender in probably a long, long time back, guard 1 through 5. We get a lights-out three-point shooter. Shoots over 40% from three, makes over 50% of his twos. He's efficient on the offensive side, and he's a great defender, one of the best defenders in all of the NBA. So I'm excited to see the Knicks when they get OG Anunoby back. All right, let's hop into some baseball. Gerrit Cole, Yankees fans obviously not too happy that he's receiving an MRI in his throwing elbow. So that's not good. There is some conspiracy theory that this injury is false. Who knows? I don't think the Yankees would just make something up. But this leads me into the topic of, do you go out there and do you sign one of the two guys in Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery? Because now you're missing your ace. And I've said it before, the Yankees, they have one of the best rotations in baseball, if not the best rotation in baseball. You take away Gerrit Cole, yeah, middle of the pack. I mean, yeah, Carlos Rodon, if he pitches well, that's an ace right there. Nestor Cortez, he was an ace 2 years ago. But you're hoping. Hope, that's the strategy for them. But for Gerrit Cole, hope wasn't a strategy. You knew Gerrit Cole was going to give you ace stuff. He's coming off his best year of his career last year. Won his first Cy Young. He's undoubtedly, in my opinion, he's undoubtedly the best pitcher in baseball. You take that guy out of your rotation, you go from the best rotation in the baseball to the middle of the pack. But you go out there and you get Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery, and you still have a top 5 rotation even without Gerrit Cole. And then when Cole comes back, your rotation is undoubtedly the best rotation in baseball. So even with Gerrit Cole not being injured, I'd still say, yes, go out there and sign Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery. Me personally, I'd pick Blake Snell. Why? Because he's a 2-time Cy Young Award winner, and I think he's the most underrated pitcher in baseball. Guy led the league in ERA last year. The second half of his season was literally a DeGrom-like. Jacob DeGrom from his prime. It was literally sub-2 ERA, like 12-3. Struck out the most batters in baseball last year. Best ERA. Won his second Cy Young. And it's March 11th, and he still doesn't have a contract. That's insane. And the Yankees reportedly are one of the only teams that actually offered him a contract all off season, like an official one. So why not? Like everybody's like, why wouldn't you sign Blake Snell? Money? Really? Money? Look at the team. Look at the Yankees right now. They got Juan Soto. They got Aaron Judge. You got DJ LeMahieu. You got Giancarlo Stanton, Anthony Rizzo, Anthony Volpe. The offense is loaded. You have the best bullpen in baseball already. They were the the best ERA last year among all bullpens. And that's basically every single year with the Yankees bullpen. When you got guys like Tommy Canley coming out of the bullpen, you're going to be good. I mean, they lost Wandy Peralta, but when you still look at the other guys in the Yankees bullpen, they're really good. So they got the best bullpen in baseball. They have arguably one of the best lineups in baseball. And with Gerrit Cole, they have one of the best rotations. Now, without, middle of the pack. But if you bring in Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery, you're good. The Yankees, on paper right now, I'd say they do have the second best team in baseball. They have the best team in the American League on paper. They're right up there with the LA Dodgers, and I think a lot of people are making a mistake not talking about the Yankees as World Series favorites. We're all talking about the Dodgers because they got Ohtani, they got Yamamoto, they got Mookie Betts moving to short, they got Freddie Freeman, yes. But the Yankees got Aaron Judge, they got Juan Soto. When Gerrit Cole is healthy, he's a beast. Nestor Cortez and Carlos Rodon, those are two potential aces right there. the Yankees are World Series contenders heading into this year. And you want to further that? You want to build off that? You get Blake Snell or you get Jordan Montgomery. Now, I'd say Blake Snell, obviously, because he's a 2-time Cy Young Award winner, and Jordan Montgomery isn't. But Jordan Montgomery also helped the Texas Rangers secure a World Series last year. He was a big part of that. So even with Montgomery or Snell, either of the two, I think it makes sense for the Yankees to build Scott Boras Classic. Yes, Scott Boras has fallen off. Scott Boras is really falling off the mat. I like how you brought that up because his agent, I mean, Cody Bellinger, he took a while to even get a contract. And he only signed, what, a 3-year deal? And he's coming off a pretty good season. He's a former MVP, hit 26 home runs last year, hit 311. And he only signed a 3-year deal. And he's not even getting paid over $30 million. And now I'm not saying Cody Bellinger is a $30 million guy, but when we're talking about Scott Boras as the best agent in baseball, you would think that a reigning Cy Young Award winner, a 2-time Cy Young Award winner, and Blake Snell would have a contract. You would think that Cody Bellinger would get a contract before mid-February as a former MVP, a guy coming off a great year. So Scott Boras is falling off. So we'll see how Scott Boras does because, I mean, with the Mets, Pete Alonso, his agent, Scott Boras. So we're going to see a little bit more Scott Boras news coming up all year and into the next offseason as well. So it is interesting to look out for Scott Boras, actually. But the Yankees, back to the Yankees, I think they have the second best team in baseball right now. And if you get Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery, you might have the best team. Because I think they do have a better rotation than the Dodgers. I do. Gerrit Cole is the best pitcher in baseball. He's better than Yamamoto. Now, hopefully this MRI comes back all clean. Everything's good to go, and he can pitch. He can be the opening day starter. But it does worry you a little bit. But at the same time, if you go out there and you sign Blake Snell or you bring back Jordan Montgomery, then you're not as worried. And then when Cole does come back, you have the best team in baseball. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Yankees do if Cole is out for an extended period of time, because if he is out for an extended period of time, and if they do sign Montgomery or Snell, it kind of signals that he might be out for an extended period of time. So it'd kind of be good and bad news if they did sign one of those guys, because you got to be thinking, well, if you didn't want to sign him before, and then after Cole gets hurt, now you sign one of those guys, maybe it is a bad injury. Who knows? We'll see what goes on with it. Season's right around the corner. I mean, season starts in late March. It's March 11th. We're 3 weeks away. 3 weeks away from opening day. And speaking of opening day, the Mets need to figure out who's starting opening day. Is it going to be Jose Quintana? Is it going to be Tyler McGill? Is it going to be Luis Severino? It's going to be one of those three. Because Severino and Tyler McGill have been turning heads all spring training so far. Tyler McGill specifically, he's been lights out with his new forkball, striking out guys left and right. And Luis Severino, who's only allowed 1 earned run all spring training so far. So you got to be excited with what you're seeing out of Sevy, because Sevy used to be an all-star. When he's at his best, Sevy is an animal. It's the best way to put it. From 2017 to 2022, he had a 3.10 ERA, 3.10 ERA. So if you get that Sevy, Mets are going to be okay. They're going to be okay. Are they going to win a World Series? No. Are they going to make the playoffs? Who knows? But they need to figure out who's going to be their opening day starter. And I think Luis Severino and Tyler McGill are making cases to be that guy. Without Kodai Senga, it's open. I mean, it came out last week that Jose Quintana is the likely candidate. But at the same time, if you really want to show that you trust Severino, you want to show that you have confidence in Severino, because he could use it. Jose Quintana, you give him the opening day start. What does that do for the Mets? It's a safe option, yes. But what is giving the opening day start to a guy like Tyler McGill or Sevy do for the Mets? Because we all know that pitching, it's not just arm talent. It's not just mechanics. Yes, that's a major player in it. But a lot of pitching is also confidence. It's confidence. When pitchers lack confidence, they ain't going to do well. And if Sevy's confident right now, McGill's confident right now, how do you make them even more confident? You show them that you trust them. Hey, you're going to get the ball on opening day. If it's one of those two guys, I think one of those two guys could be a dark horse to have a great year. I do. Even if one of them doesn't get the opening day start, I still think we have to keep a close eye on Sevy and Tyler McGill this spring training because what they're doing is turning heads. We saw McGill in April of 2022. He was an ace. We thought maybe we do have another ace in Tyler McGill. He got the opening day start in 2022, was 4-0 in the first month of the season, had like a 1-point-something ERA. He was a beast. But then since then, McGill has been up and down, up and down. So if McGill can be consistent, if this forkball is his put-away pitch now, maybe we got something in him. Maybe we got something in Luis Severino. Who knows? Who knows? But Mets, I don't know, man. They got to do some. They got to do some stuff. They got to do some stuff. And speaking of Mets news, I want to talk about this to end the show. Francisco Alvarez, could he be the big bat? Could he be the big bat that we wanted to get this offseason? Because last year, he was a semi-big bat. He hit over 25 home runs. He had over 60 RBIs. And he was a 21-year-old catcher. Now, he got a year under his belt. Who knows? Who knows? He was the top prospect in all of baseball just 2 seasons ago. So that means he was a better prospect than Elly De La Cruz. He was a better prospect than Anthony Volpe. He was a better prospect than a lot of these young guys that we're glamoring about. Francisco Alvarez has, I think it might be a hot take saying this right now, but I think Francisco Alvarez has superstar MVP-like potential. I think he could turn out to be the best hitter in the Mets lineup this year, next year, and years going forward. I think Francisco Alvarez has that type of potential. We just need to see it on a consistent basis. Similar to the guy across town, Anthony Volpe. If both of them can bring those batting averages up, we already know they got the power. Volpe's got the speed. Francisco Alvarez is an underrated defender. Volpe is a great defender, a Gold Glove defender. So when I look at Volpe and I look at Alvarez, I see them in two similar situations. I think Volpe, is he going to be the best hitter for years to come for the Yankees? No, because they already got two great hitters in Juan Soto and Aaron Judge. And Soto, is he going to resign? Who knows? That's a later topic for a later day. But Volpe and Alvarez are both in similar spots right now. We all know they got potential. But Francisco Alvarez, a little bit more potential than Volpe because, I mean, when you look at his minor league numbers, he was scary. That's why he was the top prospect in all of baseball. Number one. Nobody better. So Francisco Alvarez, I don't even know if it's a hot take by saying he could win an MVP or he could be the best hitter in the Mets lineup. And that's with Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor, two great hitters, two all-star hitters. But if Alvarez takes that next step, the Mets can actually make a wild card run. So if there's one guy who I am looking at this year the most, it's not Pete Alonso in his contract year. It's not Francisco Lindor coming off a great 30-30 season. It's not Luis Severino or Tyler McGill. It's not Edwin Diaz coming off an injury year that he missed all year. It's Francisco Alvarez. Because if Francisco Alvarez can take that step, if Francisco Alvarez can be the player that we thought he would be, that we think he could still be, then Francisco Alvarez is going to be an MVP candidate. He's that good. He's got 35, 40-plus home run potential. We just have to see it consistently. So I'm excited for baseball to start. I know a lot of you guys are excited for baseball to start. We got a lot of storylines going into the baseball season. We're going to be talking a lot of baseball next week. Might be actually going live this week too, because I do want to talk about a Yankees and Mets season preview. So we're going to have to get a guest on for that too. But yeah, that's about it. Let's go Knicks. Let's get OG Anunoby back by next week, and let's really take off. Jets got to start making some moves. Giants already making moves. This NFL offseason is already, it's getting going. Russell Wilson's a Steeler. You got Kirk Cousins signing a 4-year deal with the Falcons. This is a shakeup. Saquon going to the Eagles. Xavier McKinney going to the Packers. This offseason is getting off to a hot start, but one team specifically that is not doing anything so far is the New York Jets. So hopefully by the next episode, we can be talking about the Jets a little bit more in the offseason moves that they hopefully can make or made. We got a lot of time till the season starts, so the Jets do have time. But at the same time, when I see other teams making moves and the Jets aren't, it scares me. It scares me. So we'll see by next episode if the Jets can actually, yes, LFGM too. LFGM, baby. All right, that's what we're going to end it on. I like that, Yuki. We're ending it on that. Let's fucking go Mets.